right to speak. Some people can't do it. Some people get probably just want to go to places like that. Go to page 6 down. Page 63 minutes. And that's the call we get. We have to we just win. Try to school is private. They're all like
That's fine. That's like the pretty biggest one for us. He wants to
Welcome. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District. Today's date is Wednesday, August 15th, 2018. The time is 6 p.m. And Ms. Martinez, if you can call roll call.
Mrs. Angelina Ostaguin,
Present.
Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr., Mr. Edward Mundia,
Here.
Mrs. Leticia Guerra, here, Mrs. Connie Carter,
Present.
Mr. Luis Rodriguez,
Present.
Mrs. Ella Flores.
Present. Okay, we will now go into Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge, prayer, and call to action.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Our prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask you to guide us with wisdom and value during our meeting. May we speak and serve with integrity and purpose. Amen. Our call to action.
All students enjoy successful education experiences, empowering them to make decisions while enriching their lives in the future they create.
We're now going to go into closed session. The board will return to open session and take appropriate action, if any, on items discussed in closed session. No action will be taken in closed session. Further, board members are reminded that all items discussed in closed session must remain confidential so as to avoid liability to the district. The board will consider and discuss the following items. Closed meeting pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Number 1, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and the time is 6:02 p.m. Thank you. Welcome. We're back in open session. The time is 6:43 p.m. Ms. Martinez, if you could log in that Mr. Ibarra showed it at 6:13 p.m. We're now going to go into the superintendent's remarks. Dr. Saavedra.
Thank you, Mr. Seguin, members of the board. As the board knows, today the TEA released the state accountability for the 17-18 school year, and I've shared some of this information with the board already. I simply want to make some brief remarks. We're scheduled to do a more complete report to the board next Wednesday, next time we meet as a board. And the thing I wanted to point out is, as the board knows, we ended up with 5 IR schools. We had not had any IR schools for 3 years in a row. And one elementary, Carrillo, is ended up IR. We had reviewed the data and we were not surprised, I guess, that it was IR. We knew it was going to end up IR once all the data started coming in. Kindred, on the other hand, was fairly close to passing, so didn't quite make it. But the 3 middle schools are a real surprise, and that they ended up IR. And you might recall in the email I sent the board earlier today, I made the statement that these 3 schools actually met standard, but based on a late rule that the commissioner put in place, they were automatically defaulted into failure. And I want to share that with you, and we can talk about it more next week when we do the more complete report. But if you will look at Dwight, Shepherd, and Samana going across the screen all the way to the right, their overall was a 64 for all 3 schools, which indicates that they met standard. Not meeting standard would be anything under 60. And the rule that was put in place, I believe around July the 20th, Denise, thank you. Around July 20th, 3 weeks ago, the commissioner decided that if a school did not meet standard in 3 out of the 4 performance levels going across, they would automatically default. And we have a lot of issue with that, primarily because it was a late moment change in the rules. He put the rule in place without any type of input from educators or community or general public or anybody. He basically arbitrarily put that rule in place. It's my understanding that some presentation that he made with the Austin Chamber of Commerce, someone made reference to how could a school meet standard when they did not meet the standard in 3 out of the 4 measurements. And based on that single input, from what I understand, he decided to put this rule in place. We do intend to, and we've already notified the state today that we intend to issue an appeal for these schools. I don't know on what basis we would appeal this particular rule, other than it's something that we're going to have to study carefully. We seem to believe, and others seem to believe, that the rule actually violates statute, because statute actually says that in the 3 domains of student achievement, and then academic growth and relative performance, you basically take the highest of those 3. And that determines, and that's actually in statute. And the way I understand his rule, what his intention is for the rule to overrule statute. And honestly, legally, I don't know that you can do that. But anyway, I simply wanted to point that out because, like I said, these 3 schools did meet standard. They were automatically defaulted into failure. And anyway, I want to share that with the board. I will tell you that overall, we're not pleased with the performance overall. We'll talk about that more next week. But we take responsibility for it, clearly. Staff is already working and trying to identify the major issues, and we'll come back ready as school opens up on Monday, ready to try to address these deficiencies. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing, if I may. With the start of the school year, and I know there's always a lot of questions about transportation. The board adopted the rules and policies in reference to transportation, basically what we call the 2-mile rule. You have to live 2 miles or beyond to receive transportation, or be affected by one of the hazardous routes as adopted by the board. One thing we did last year, and we want to do it again this year, and put it out and maybe formalize it a bit more than what we did last year, is there are times when buses actually have room for additional kids. And even last year, you might recall, a few weeks into the school year, we allowed students that live between 1.5 miles and 2 miles to ride a bus if there was room in that area. And quite a few students actually were able to take advantage of that. We plan to introduce that again. It cannot be put in place until about 2 weeks into the school year. We need to determine for sure whether we have space or not. And so about 2 weeks into the school year, we will determine how much space is available and allow people students to ride that live between 1.5 miles and 2 miles. I've talked to Mr. Berlanga and Mr. Zamora. We're actually working on the criteria. We plan to put this up on the website to inform parents. Should be up hopefully by tomorrow. And there will be an application process also. We will give priority to the students that live furthest from the school, with the 1.9 versus the 1.6. And those students would be allowed to ride as long as a capacity remains throughout the year. If at any point students that actually meet the standard of beyond 2 miles start riding the bus, we may have to not allow others to ride the bus that are inside the 2 miles. I want to share that with the board because, again, with the start of the year, not only do we get calls, you get calls as well. And so I want you to know that we're going to put that in place. Thank you.
Okay. So we're now on presentation and reports. Quarterly investment report, Dr. Slither.
Mr. Zamora.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam President. This is our quarterly investment report that we're required by statute to present. You'll see that our beginning asset value for the district grand total was $36,325,925. The beginning market value is the same. The interest earned in this quarter was $169,544.74. Deposits made into the investments was $1,546,858.26, and withdrawals from the investment pools was $480,392.48, giving us an ending market value, ending asset value of $37,561,136.16.
Okay, board, before I open the floor for the board, can I get the citizens to be heard paperwork? Mr. Cummings, does your question relate to this segment?
I wasn't listening to the segment. I was talking about school finance, so.
Okay, so,
I'm talking about the budget and TRE.
okay, we'll reserve it to the end.
Yeah, all
Thank
right.
you. Okay, board, the floor is now open. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, can I see some hands up? And I can So now we're on consent items 1 through 13. Dr. Silva, are there any that are going to be pulled out?
Yes, ma'am. Consent item number 11, we would like to withdraw. No action.
Okay. Board, so please disregard consent item number 11. Are there any other consent items that you would like to pull out? Mrs. Waters?
I'd like to pull out number 10 for discussion.
Okay. Are there any others? Mrs. Prado?
Number 12, please.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve item 1 through 9?
Move to approve.
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second has been made by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Flores, you're up, number 10.
Yes, I have a few questions here that I think that have to do with, if we could pull up number 10, fund balance designation. And I understand that those indicate reserve for food service, reserve for food service inventory, so on, but the unassigned fund balance. Can you explain that a little bit, Jason?
The accounting for fund balances has different categories. So we have reserve, designated, unassigned, and committed. The district chooses, and the district administration can recommend different categories to put the fund balance in. So ultimately, it's all considered fund balance. The designations just have a different meaning. So designated means that we have committed it for some future purpose, like a HVAC replacement system. So it's just different terminology. At the end of the day, the board can always or place it back in the unassigned, as the unassigned is the most flexible for the district or the board to utilize those funds for anything that the board may wish to use it for. So the 20 million is, again, it was there at the end of the 2016-17 year. And all we're proposing is the other fund balances, because the district historically had everything in what we call the general fund. So our food service used to be called was in the general fund. Our self-insurance for workers' comp was part of the general fund. We determined that it was better suited to move these to their own funds, so that those fund balances could alone for those specific purposes. So that's all this is doing. It's moving those different programs into their own fund so that they're no longer commingled with the general fund, which makes it look overstated to a certain extent, because we could never use the food service fund balance for general fund purposes. And you wouldn't want to use it's going to be like the self-funded health insurance program. It will have its own fund so that we don't use those funds to make up a gap in our shortfall in the budget, perhaps. And then the self-insurance plan or program falls into a deficit on its own because we keep pulling from it. So that's essentially what we're doing here, is we're establishing truly what is considered our general fund balance. And right now we're just classifying it as an unassigned fund balance, but the board can always make a recommendation later to say, hey, we want to put $5 million for capital improvements or bus replacement plans, things of that nature.
Okay. And then how does our fund balance compare to that of other districts?
The last time I checked, I think we're in a good position. I don't have those numbers on me, but I'll be glad to report that out to the board in the weekly update or at the board meeting.
Would like 30, I don't know, I looked at the actual financial data for 2016-17 on the TA website
Yes.
for South Sands fund balance of 27,698,031, something like that.
Yes.
That totals all of this. And it says on there that the percent of total revenues is 31% as compared to 59 for the state.
So that number is kind of skewed as well, because again, with all those different programs in one fund, the revenues were overstated or stated high because it was taking in the food food service revenues and putting it in general fund revenues. And so, to say those percentages are accurate, I don't have that information, but again, I can report that out. But again, the information from last year is still commingling all this different information, so it's going to be skewed to a certain extent.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering because as a result of the failure of the GRE, I was just wondering what is considered best practice if we're going to dip into the general fund?
Well, generally, 3 months is the minimum. So if you want to say best practice, I would say, 6 months is probably a better position to be in. Because you don't ever want to be at the minimum level of reserve, but I don't know that there's something out there that we'll find as far as best practice on fund balance. Every district is in a different position. But 3 months is generally a minimum.
That's all I have.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. Munguia, and then it would be Mr. Ibarra.
JC, can you clarify something for me here? When we look at the food service items, is that something that the board had put in place, or is that a law that says that has to be food service?
No, so that's a required accounting for it, to put the food service, because it can't be used for general fund purposes. So it's reserved specific for the food service program.
Okay, and same for the insurance, that's mandated to go to that.
Well, the self-insurance, it's sort of a yes and no answer. It's sort of mandated because since we take from all funds, the workers' comp is expensed against both general fund and federal funds. We are restricted from using anything that's expensed by the federal funds for any other purpose than the federal funds. So that money sort of has to stay there until we pay out those premiums or claims on behalf of the federal funds. If you want to say the general fund side, could it be moved? Potentially, yes, it could, but it wouldn't be, that would definitely not be a best practice.
Okay, so if we're going to take money from fund balance to do whatever, that is within the $20.5 million.
Correct.
Okay. Other question here. I had found a report about South San from 2006, which had mentioned different categories within the fund balance. I'm just interested to know if these are still applied to what we have here, so everything kind of fits in these. And it's 5 that I see here. It's non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. That's still true?
I'm trying to remember. I think they reduced it to 4. I think it's committed, unassigned, and reserved. Committed, unassigned, reserved, and designated.
Okay. So those original ones are not applicable today?
They're similar. I think they have the same intent for the most part. So I can't remember when, but a few years back, the TA did change the titles of the different designations that you can have for fund balance.
Okay. And the one other question real quick. I know that we're guaranteed a minimum bond rating through the state, and I believe you get a financial score from TEA. Does having a low fund balance, specifically lower than 3 months, affect either one of those? I know the minimum is, for the bond is the minimum, but if we're trying to expand beyond the minimum, does that affect that ability?
So it would affect the rating. I think even more so, the view of a rating agency would look at it from a standpoint of ability to sustain your operations. So if we have a deficit budget ongoing, they're going to look at that negatively because we're losing money every year, and they're going to be worried about being able to, for us to pay our bonds from a rating agency standpoint. But again, we do also have the guaranteed rate by the state, but yes, it would. The rating agencies do look at that as far as spending down fund balance and your available fund balance.
And would TEA look negatively on that as well, operating with lower than 3 months reserve in fund balance?
The first rating is the report we get that the state sort of evaluates our financial position, and there is no longer a rating based on fund balance.
Okay. So really just is affecting, if we want to grow our bond rating capability, that's, we should not dip into that.
Correct.
That's all my questions.
All right, Mr. Yvonne?
So I'm trying to, a couple of things. So what is our 3-month reserve?
With this year's budget, it's about 18.5 million.
That would be 3 months of operating expenses.
Correct.
So I know our fund balance was low, I guess about 4 years ago. It was probably only 2-month reserve or a little less.
Then we can, excuse me, then we can down to about 11 million if I recall correctly.
Which would be about
About
a
2
little less than 2 months.
Less than 2.
So we were able to build that up at what kind of rate? I'm trying to figure out how long it took us to build up to 3 months, because we just got to 3 months at the end of last year, right?
So last year, what we determined was there were some accounting errors that was showing the fund balance, it was inaccurate. So once we went in and made the corrections we needed for the balance sheet, that sort of, it moved our fund balance up. So we did have a surplus last year on top of that, but then we also had the lawsuit that was pending, and it was not actually that was one of the accounting errors. Instead of putting it as a designation for any other category of the 3.5 million, they actually expensed it, which was inappropriate. They should have dedicated it to a fund balance, and it would have stayed there and would have been a part of the fund balance total until the lawsuit was determined. So we made that adjustment last year, which increased the fund balance. And then there was some other misclassification, I want to say on the workers' comp side, that we were able to pick up fund balance based on some of the accounting errors that we found. And again, we did have a surplus last year.
So when was the last period that we didn't have a 3-month reserve? Was that 2 years ago?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Like I said, we came down to about 11 million, but keeping in mind what JC just said, that part of that situation was an error on how they expense certain items, I guess, JC?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So would you say that 11 million at that time most likely was not correct?
Correct. So the previous year fund balance that were reported were understated because these accounting errors had happened, I think, back in 2015 was when the lawsuit was expensed, or when it came to be. So that entry negatively impacted the fund balance because it was done incorrectly. The workers' comp as well, it was always there, but it was misclassified, I'd say.
Okay.
So, if I went back in time and we did the books for every year to make those corrections, we at least had 2 months, if not, it would have been close to 2 months probably.
Okay. So we hadn't been at a 3-month either way until the end of last year.
We may have been at a 3-month if those accounting errors had not happened. But again, I have not gone back to do that work.
We probably were at 3 months around 2014, which is around the time I started. I kind of recall about 18 million, Ms. Barlow.
Yes.
Ms. Barlow keeps up with it as well as I do. And it was about 18 million back then. So I think 2014 was about the last time, to answer your question, that we were at 3 months.
Okay.
Mr. Ibarra, you have 1 minute left.
Okay. So for every $1 million that we take out of the general fund, how long, in your opinion, Dr. Savella, does it take to recoup that savings in this declining enrollment?
I couldn't tell you. I just don't know. It has a lot to do with revenue coming in, expenditures. This past year we froze hiring. That makes a difference. In years that we don't freeze hiring, it doesn't build as quickly. This depends on what actions the district takes.
Because we were asked to vote on taking out $2 or $3 million
Yeah.
in the general
Right.
budget this year.
Right.
And you felt like you could make that up in a year.
Right. And that's about what you, in my opinion, about what you can make under normal circumstances.
Here in South San, we could make that up.
Yeah, $1 million to $1.5 million or so under normal circumstances.
Are we I know it's hard to determine, but are you expecting any major expenses coming up over the next year for facilities or anything like that?
Okay, it's a good
Because
question.
I know we took out money from capital improvement budget.
That's a good question, and I'd like to respond by simply looking beyond this next year. There are some major expenses that this district will face over the next several years, and a lot of the expenses will be capital type expenses. Our facilities are in great need of improvement. We don't have hardly any bonding capacity left, very little. So, which is the traditional way of trying to address some of these issues. So if you can't address it through bonding capacity, then your general fund's gonna have to, the regular budget's gonna have to deal with that. We've been budgeting close to $1 million a year for capital facility items, broken air conditioners, roofs, and things like that. 4 years ago, we didn't budget any money. We started this 4 years ago. In my opinion, the right number is closer to about $3 to $5 million a year if you're gonna fund this through your regular budget. So that gives you a pretty good idea that somehow we got to build this $900,000 that we have in the budget this past year, at least to about $3 million over the next several years. And my strong recommendation to the board, as you move forward, is make a strong attempt to increase that capital by at least $500,000 annually, until you get to at least $3 million. And frankly, I would encourage you to get all the way up to $5 million. These buildings will not get any newer, and they're going to create serious problems as we move forward. And so that's one. The second would be we're providing transportation for the academies, but that's only one grade level of the academies. Next year will be a second grade level, and the following year the third grade level. This year we added 3 bus routes for those academies. Next year you're going to add 3 more, that's 6. The third year you're going to add 3 more, that's going to be 9. In addition to the regular transportation we're doing already. We're pretty much close to capacity now. There's very little wiggle room now in reference to our infrastructure, or the number of buses, condition of buses, and so forth. At some point, this district's going to have to, we've been buying 1 or 2 buses a year to do a replacement. At some point, we're going to have to replace 10 buses at a time, 5 buses at a time. Those are about $100,000 a piece. So I'm trying to answer your question because, yes, I envision a lot of major expenses moving forward over several years.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is just that without the TRE passing, we got to figure out, we got some hard decisions to make, and we got to figure out how the money's going to be spent and what we foresee in the future to make our decisions, so.
Yes, have a question.
Okay. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns?
Yeah, I just want to
Mr. Rodriguez?
say, JC, just for clarification, can you explain how the fund balance increases? Under normal circumstances, not the accounting errors and all that, but how does it increase normally?
So the normal process would be that our revenues exceed our expenditures. So ultimately, we have little control over our revenues. We can't control enrollment. The state funds based on enrollment. Our taxes are certified by the appraisal office, so those values come in at what they are. And so those dollar amounts are the majority of our revenue, and we have little control over generating new revenue. The only area that we can control truly is our expenditures, and that's the means to a balanced budget or a surplus budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next. Excuse me? Yes, you can have one other round. Mrs. Juarez?
JC, just for clarification as well, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for asking that question because I wanted to see how I was going to ask this one. So had the TRE passed, the revenue we would be getting, 65% or so of that money would have been coming from the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, that's a lot. Okay, thank you.
Second round, anyone else want to go another round? All right, next section. Mrs. Prado, number 12.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wait, we need a motion for number 10.
I move to approve the district fund balance designation.
Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Flores. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second has been made by Mr. Munguia. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, Mrs. Prado, number 12.
Thank you. My question has to do with the special education programs. On the report here, it looks like this is for the funding for this coming school year. And in looking at the summary page, it's got the funding budget codes of 199 and 224. But if you look at the itemized funding, it looks like there's other funding sources that we're using, 224, 435, 199, 385. Can you tell me what sources they are?
The 435 is the RDSPD, the Regional Day School Program Fund that we get from the state. And the 385 is for the visually impaired students. We get another little sum of money in September, and then and that has to be used only with our visually impaired students.
And the 224, I guess, is
That's
special
the
ed.
vision
Okay.
that
Can you tell me, what is our status? What is the program of special ed? What status are we in now? Because I think we were in stage 4 at one time.
we haven't gotten the staging yet.
So we're still in stage 4 as of right now.
As of right now, yes, ma'am.
When do we get a report on when is that going to change, or what are we doing to get that corrected? Because that is the worst of the worst.
Yes, so there's a lot. It goes with instruction, scores. It has to do with Star Alt. It has to do with putting students in mainstream with our instructional arrangements. So there's about 13 indicators that we constantly have to monitor. So that's what we did this past year. We monitored every single indicator. We tried to improve on it, lower our Star Alt participation requirements. And so basically every year they send a new PDMOS manual. We just got that this week. So we'll look through, and they've asked us to start looking at our numbers and see, so we can start seeing where we're going to fall again.
Is this the first year that we've been in stage 4?
In a while, yes. We have been before, but it's probably about maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
And after stage 4, what happens if we don't comply and don't make these changes and corrections?
Yeah, they keep working with us. We did have somebody from TDA. She monitored us all year. We got a letter from TDA recently. I can send it to you saying that we did a really good job with our implementations of our district improvement plan. And so we continue to do that. We continue to make improvements everywhere we can.
The other question I have is, I think if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, we had gotten dinged at one time because we were split funding. Was it for special ed? Was federal funds that being split funded for staff? But I know there's one here that's being split funded from the 199 and 385. Is that appropriate? Can we take funds from the 199 for special ed?
Yeah, it's the other, you can't do the opposite.
The other way?
You can't go the other way.
Okay. So we're okay with the split funding on this? Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that we're not going to do something that's going to bring the feds down on us.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, we've got a lot of successes with our, we will be with our academies and early college,
Yes.
high school, but let's not forget our special needs kids. We need to really pay attention to them. And then not just the special ed and not just the brights of the brights, our kids that maybe are not in college or have not chosen a career path. We need to pay attention to them because we look at our scores. We need to improve.
And we definitely have been working real closely with the curriculum department. And we're doing specialized training just for our special ed teachers. on how to instruct in guided reading, how to instruct in math instruction. So we're putting a lot of new things in place even this year. A lot more coaching is being done with our special ed teachers as well. We did co-teach training this last couple of days with Region 20 came in, so we did that as well. So we're really focusing on our special populations.
I hope that we can get out of state.
Oh, I definitely.
Okay.
It's probably made a lot of improvements across the district. And it's still with our special ed population.
Okay, good, that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments, questions, or concerns?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve special education contracted services for students for the 2018-19 school year.
Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Frylow. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Flores. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Could I make a comment real quick?
1 second.
Okay.
Okay, board, I forgot to put that there's consent item number 13. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion has been made by Mrs. Flores to approve. Motion has been made by Mrs. Flores. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second has been made by Mr. Ibarra. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Dr. Sloat.
Real quick comment on the question that Mr. Ibarra asked, and then also what Ms. Flores asked. Mr. Ibarra asked long-term expenditures, and I went through capital, buses, $1 million and so forth. Ms. Flores asked a question about GRE had it passed, 65% being provided by the state. And if I can offer you the comparison, the $1 million that I said this district will eventually spend on buses, the $1 million. Right now, if it comes out of fund balance, it's being paid completely by South San, because it's in our coffers already. But had that GRE passed, the state of Texas would have paid $650,000 of those buses, and we would have paid $350,000. Just to give you a comparison to what that means, the amount of the money that was left on the table. But that's a good comparison when you both ask those questions. All these future expenditures that we've talked about would have been funded nearly 2/3 by the state and 1/3 by the local community. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're in discussion of possible action. Number 1, discussion of possible action to approve to change board policy CH logo. Dr. Sylvester.
Let me open it up. Yes, ma'am. CH local is the policy that limits the superintendent's authority on expenditures to $25,000. When I started with the district, I believe the amount was $5,000, to tell you the truth. I believe that was correct. And we moved it up to $25,000. The state law really allows the authority at the superintendent level at $50,000. Mr. Samada actually is the one that asked that we try to change this if the board agrees, is it provides for more efficient operation of procurement without having to come to the board. Many times we wait 2 weeks or whatever it is before we have a board meeting. And so we're asking the board to consider changing the authorization from $25,000 to $50,000. JC, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I think part of our discussion was about changes to local policies that restricted the administration based on the Lone Star governance. And so that's sort of how this conversation started. And so I was just bringing it as per conversations that we've had about local policies and changing them to be less restrictive.
Okay, before I open the floor, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve to change board policy CH local as presented.
Okay, the floor is open. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? Mrs. Brother?
I just have a question. When we changed the policy, I think as Dr. Savetta said, it was from 5,000 or maybe 10,000 to 25,000, something like that. Have there been a time where anything has had to come to the board and it was delayed?
So I can answer that question. The answer is yes. If you're going to ask me for an example, right now I can't think of the example, but there have been numerous times when we have talked to staff and said, we'll have to wait 2 weeks or whatever. when it goes beyond the 25,000.
One example I was going to give is actually on the agenda today was the scrubbers. So, we're coming to the end of the year, seeing that there was available funds to purchase equipment that we don't have currently. And fortunately, in our review, we were able to get this item in time, and the vendor's able to get it to us before the end of the year. If the vendor would not have been able to get it to us before the end of the year, it then would have fell into next year's budget, and we may not have been able to afford it. So this is an example where it worked out, fortunately, but there's not always that vendor that has the equipment in stock or available at when we need it. So that's just an example of one.
I guess my next question is since we're referring to the scrubbers, was this something you said the last minute they decided to purchase, it was not planned?
It was in review. We have been planning it, but in order to make sure that we maintain our balanced budget this year, we want to make sure that we're going to be able to. So we wanted to make sure that once we saw that the numbers were in our favor, we said we could afford to purchase it for this year.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, so a motion has been made by Mrs. Flores. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second has been made by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 2, discussion and possible action to accept the effective tax rate and rollback tax rate for year 2018 for South End ISD. Dr. Spence.
Which is what?
So, as part of the requirement for adopting budget and tax rate, we were still required to bring to the board and get approval of our effective and rollback tax rate. So this is just part of that process.
Okay, board members, do I hear a motion before the floor gets open?
I'll move to approve the effective tax rate and rollback tax rate for year 2018.
Okay,
I second.
the floor is now open. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, a motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra, seconded by Mrs. Prado. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 3. I believe that this item is going to be pulled, Dr. Switter. Is that correct?
After we have a
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes,
Okay.
bring it back next week.
So now we are on citizens to be heard. Mr. Cummings.
Thank you. Ms. Osteguin, members of the board, Dr. Zavedra. My name is Tom Cummins, and I'm speaking for South San AFT. We were, of course, disappointed by the election outcome of the tax gratification election for TRE. Its defeat was a disservice to the students, employees, and residents of South San. There was, however, a very short timeline between the approval of the election and the election date. So the time necessary to inform parents and taxpayers of the need for the TRE was simply not there. Then that is compounded by having an August election when people are on vacations and are consumed with summer activities which don't relate to school. The South San AFT recommends that the school board immediately begin an education program regarding the finances of South San and its consequences of not acting on those financial conditions that we're in. We have a big problem with the legislature also. In the past, it's my opinion that the board has not been as active as it should be in regards to the legislature and as insistent as it should be on the politicians who represent South San. And I think that should be also a priority for you, which should increase the activity that's happened compared to the past. We also recommend that the TRE, well, the education component has to happen because that was the problem we ran across. People did not understand the consequences had previous boards acted on it, say 10 years ago, we would have had $60 million extra dollars in this district. And that can't be overlooked. We can't let our schools physically deteriorate, which is happening. I've already made a complaint, which has been acted on. Thank you very much. And we can't let that state money go to Harlandale and Southwest and all these other school districts. That money belongs to the children of South San, and we need to get it back. So again, please don't be that board. Students need to be served. And again, we recommend that this board begin acting, developing a program to have another TRE election. Thank you very much.
Okay, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Second?
Motion has been made by Mr. Yubada, seconded by Mrs. Flores. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and the time is 7:21.